The primary elections last night in Michigan, in Missouri, and a couple of other states were really, really weird. And when I mean really, really weird, I mean right from the beginning. I told you yesterday that I was not really impressed with a lot of the polls, especially the prediction markets, though. All of these prediction markets, Kalshi Poly markets said, "Oh man, all of the socialists, they're gonna sprint forward and they're gonna be like oodles, canoodles, and toaster strudels ahead of everybody. 30-point victory for Abdul El Sayed. Cori Bush in Missouri, 15 points ahead. And then you're going to see Shri Thanedar pull it out with this amazing 10-point victory." And none of that happened at all. None of that happened whatsoever. So let's go in reverse order here. Or know what? Actually, let's do something a little different at the beginning. Allow me to give you the reason for all of the nonsense that played out last night to almost dead draws, except for a few cases, and why all of that happened. Last night, there was one group of people who lost. One group of people. The people who lost were freaking weird. That's a lot of it. That is the vast majority. A lot of weird people lost right up front. First of these would be Shri Thanedar. So Shri Thanedar, he is the Indian-born representative from Detroit, and he lost to a guy named Donovan McKinney. Now, again, as a reminder, we've talked about Shri before. He's one of the guys who, like Al Green down in Texas, with his dastardly deeds undone. Shri Thanedar, he has the big, huge wig, toupee situation, and then he's also got the massive, big old honkin' eyebrows. So he is now very, very upset at the end, and again, losing to Donovan McKinney, that people have been talking about his hair. He's very, very upset about this. This is where his priorities are.
But they talk about my hair. They talk about my hair. They talk about my appearance. They talk about where I was born. They talk about everything, my looks. They talk about my age. They talk about why I should be deported back to the country where I was born. They talk about my past business dealings and they distort my business record.
Well, no. In fact, you were credibly called out for some shady past business records. And again, this was a close election. Donovan McKinney barely squeaked out a 52%, well, 51.9%, to Shri Thanedar's 48.1%. 99% of the vote is now in.
They do everything.
Okay,
but
so the reason that Shri lost is because of this. Because he's weird. Because a lot of Democrats are very, very nervous going into this election who's going to face the Republican. It's a weird place to be in because usually it's the other way around. Usually the Republicans are having arguments about who's going to nominate Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania, or who, and again, that's in the primary, not the general, or who's going to nominate, insert candidate here that's very wacky out there, smacking themselves in the head with a hammer crazy. Like James Fishback of Florida. You know what I'm talking about? Like just really weird out there candidates that aren't really good for a general election. And Republicans are used to being the ones arguing, saying, dude, if you put this person in front of candidates, in front of moderates, in front of independents, they're not going to come vote for us. They're not going to come vote for anybody. This is going to suck. Now it is Democrats that are worried to go up against the candidates that the Republicans are promoting in a lot of those districts. And the weird, some people are saying the socialists surged last night, the progressives won. They didn't do as well as a lot of people are thinking. Really, it was a lot of Democrats who are stuck between garbage and slightly Febrezed garbage. So Shri Thanedar, again, this was his end of July ad, his big pitch to Detroit. Again, Detroit. When you think of Detroit, when you think of the demographics that make up Detroit, low and middle income Americans who are not out like jogging on a Sunday afternoon. They're getting up and they're going to work and they are coming home. Perhaps they are struggling with certain prices on various things. Perhaps they are struggling in their business if they're a low income or middle income business owner. There are things to talk about. Of course, manufacturing. Does Shri talk about any of those with voters? Nope. It's all about his, I'm Shri Thanedar and I'm jogging. Look at the wind flow through my wig.
Hey, this is Congressman Shri Thanedar here in beautiful downtown Detroit.
No one has ever uttered the words beautiful downtown Detroit and meant it. Not since 59. Okay? No. I'm afraid not, Don McLean. This American pie is not going to the levee. It's not a thing. And also, guys, stop this. You thought I was joking when I made the jogging reference? No, here he is.
I'm meeting people, asking them to make sure they vote on August 4th in the primary election. I'm asking for your vote so I can continue fighting the Trump administration.
Exciting. I can't believe that didn't drive people out to the polls. And by the way, this kind of stuff is not new. This has been happening with him for ages. I don't care how old he is. He can't even name the neighborhoods in Detroit.
I don't know.
What are the 5 Grosse Points cities?
Well, look, I'm not here to answer a quiz. I'm here to say that I'm going to fight for the people of Detroit. I'm going to fight for my constituents.
And Grosse Pointe. And
the points are the park, the city of Grosse Pointe, and then the farms, the woods, and the shores, I think. I'm from Indiana, and I know this.
And all of the Grosse Points and all of Taylor and every part of the 13th district.
Didn't work. Now, what about the socialists? The socialists who barely squeaked out a 2-point victory against him. This is going to be the other half of it, because the weird did not do very well. But what about the socialists? They had some wins, right? What about this Donovan McKinney guy? When you listen to him, again, he's a through and through socialist, but he just acts normal, even if it's fake. Zoran Mamdani, during the campaign, acted normal. Other progressives throughout the country that have run in the last year or so, they have tried to act normal, and unless you're in Los Angeles or New York, you have to in order to win. The guy named Kai something or other down in Arizona who got spanked by the incumbent Democrat, dude was a Fruit Loop that even Toucan Sam wouldn't touch. All right? And when you see Donovan McKinney here, dude looks and acts normal.
All right, so I'm tracking hundreds of races across the country right now, so I apologize if I get anything wrong, but I believe that you are a candidate who has been endorsed by the DSA. What does that endorsement mean to you?
It means a lot. Listen, we are building one of the biggest and baddest coalitions in the country. I've had over 150 plus endorsements from DSA, National, to Working Families Party, LCV, Sierra Club, a lot of our enviro groups. Shout out to Jane Fonda.
So far, it's just normal. Just a guy. He's just a dude. Now, is he saying radical stuff? Yeah. But is he just acting like a dude? That's easier to vote for. Now, again, this is the same kind of socialist, well, for lack of a better term, BS, that is going to be really, really difficult to sell to independent voters who really do not like this stuff that he's offering. But in the primary, acting like not a nutcase is in the Midwestern Rust Belt United States and then also in the Central Plains. It's really turning out a different class of voter in the primary, and it's just barely enough. So here's the same, again, I told you about his socialist stuff. Here's his bona fides.
You know, if you get elected to Congress, would raising the federal minimum wage be something you would work on? Is that something that's
Yeah. So I've been a part of the, SEIU to fight for $15 minimum wage here in Michigan ever since the early 2010s, like I think over 15 years ago. And $15 back then, we were fighting for $15 back then. But $15 an hour equates to about $30,000 a year. That's nothing in America today in the year 2026. And so, the federal minimum wage is still, I believe, at $7.25.
Yep, it's unbelievable.
Like $15 isn't nothing. So in reality, we need to, keep up with inflation. I think I'll look at some data points. I think if we can raise it to a livable wage, which is anywhere between $22 an hour to about $35 an hour.
$35 an hour. Multiply the minimum wage by 5. There you go. That'll fix it. Again, Seattle and in Washington State as a whole is really struggling with implementing this policy because it's destroying businesses. So these kind of policies are not going to be as appealing to voters, but for the primary, if you get out there and you do the radical stuff, sure, but if you're going up against crazy whack-a-mole insane person, it's a little bit better. Now, in this case, it also flips the other way. So you say, well, Tony, no, actually, it's the socialists who are really appealing. Over in Missouri, Cori Bush, who is more socialist leaning, went up against Wesley Bell, the incumbent, or as Politico described him, the AIPAC endorsed incumbent Wesley Bell, and Wesley won. As far as what we're looking at with, again, the Cori Bush stuff, she lost to Wesley Bell. Now, he had a pretty sizable victory over Cori. She got spanked, I believe is the technical political term here. 59.2 to almost 37%. Not pretty at all. But again, all of these betting markets said that, Cori Bush has all this momentum online. Her tweets have a lot of likes. She gets out there on Instagram. There's a lot of heart emojis on her Instagram posts. On LinkedIn, people are saying that she's inspiring them to do special sales techniques or whatever you do on LinkedIn. Cry sadly and depressed in the corner. All right. People are talking about her. So all of these like political market tools on the gambling side got together and said, oh, I tell you what, Shri's going to probably win. And then Cori Bush, she's probably going to win. She's going to win great. It's going to be amazing. Nope. She lost. She got stomped. And I'm telling you, it's all about the weird. You need a case in point. You need an example. Here you go. Cori Bush's somewhat of a concession speech is giving Jasmine Crockett a monster. Here you go.
You were bamboozled and you were deceived by those ads. So if somebody has to smear someone else,
Cori Bush talking about smearing someone in a negative connotation is freaking hilarious. I mean, talk about the pot calling the kettle Cori Bush. Hoo boy indeed. But also, you were deceived by a scarlet letter.
$5 million worth of lies. You all, then that means that they have no story. They have no vision. They have no value for you. Never have.
She's just panicked, upset, very, very angry. The emotions are high running. What about Wesley Bell's concession?
So yeah, there's going to be times we disagree on issues, but that never should stop us from doing the work.
Now, by the way, you'll notice that if we're actually get into the conversation about, Ebonics and the quote unquote black scent that he's using, it is just as quote unquote inner city as Cori Bush's. So this isn't an issue of how black he is or how black he's acting, which would be really weird to talk about anyway. He's simply carrying himself in a manner that everyone is more amenable to. And this is the more moderate compared to Cori Bush.
Of regular folks. We can disagree over here, but we can still do the work. We can disagree over there, but we can still do the work.
Now, this is an individual, by the way, who has made it perfectly clear that he's not going to the socialist side because the black voters, his words, not mine, in St. Louis, Missouri, are way, 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 way angrier with socialists than they are with the Republican side of things. That's a big deal. Now, again, I remember there happens to be a very soft man on the CNN side of things who told me about a week and a half ago that it was really race baity to suggest that black voters were just not excited at all about the socialist candidates. And that finally, those 2 points, both the weird side of things and then the delightful abandonment of the Democrat Party of all of their traditional groups, union voters in the Rust Belt, you're Bill Clinton kind of populists. And again, black voters, Hispanic voters, and union line automotive workers, the actual working class people. Yeah, they're just, they're really, really, really not in the mood for what's been dishing up.